Each time a man stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope.
The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything.
You are now listening to Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell, the voice for the people. Join Richie alongside co-host property damage attorney Hans Kennon as they bring light to the taboo world of big insurance companies, exposing their tactics and fighting for justice. Hear stories from contractors across the state. Contractor Talk, here to protect homeowners and uncover the truth.
All right, welcome to the show. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. Now on Monday nights, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. We're excited to be here in this new format or this new dial. 94.9 FM, The Answer, 950 a.m. I'm here with my co-host, Hans Kennon, with Kennon Law Firm, and myself, Richie Kidwell. Excited to be here. What's going on, Hans?
Oh, glad to be back. I'm not sure if you're Simon or I'm Garfunkel or how that all works out, but it's good to be back on the radio. We did a lot of podcasts for a while. We did radio for years before that. It's nice to be back in that format again.
I'm excited. I'm excited for a new listenership, and it's closer to our homes even. I mean, I don't mind the studio. I'm not hating where we go to every night. Starting now, we were going to roll out in the new year. I thought it was great to just kind of wipe off the live radio dust, so being on podcast, being able to have a free range, I think is, this is a different skill set. And plus we have a face for radio anyways.
Oh, you do, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I was speaking for us both, trying to make myself feel a little bit better. Thanks, buddy. But yeah, it's nice to be back together when there's so much happening. And now, we were just talking before the show. We have our Florida session just about to fire up in March, but the Senate and the House of Representative folks are still coming back. I mean, as early as tomorrow for some meet and greets, and then also we're going to be out the gate in January, just in regular committee weeks. They call this a elongated session because it officially starts in March. First Tuesday in March, goes for 60 days. But before session, they're going to be doing all these committee weeks, starting as early as January, first, second week of January, to get a lot of stuff done. And so there's going to be a lot of things on the agenda, I imagine. But what changes could possibly come up if we have DeSantis rolling up to Washington D.C. and now we're talking with Janet Nunez, which is the lieutenant governor, who then automatically gets that seat as governor for 2 years. Yeah. And from what I heard somewhere else is that I think she'll be running again in 2026 as a Republican for that governor seat. Then, of course, I've heard many other people that are throwing their hats in the ring, possibly, maybe even John Morgan as an independent. I thought that was funny. I read that article yesterday. I
think one thing we see too is that with the changes in the Senate, on all of a sudden I'm blank on this, is going to become Secretary of State. Marco Rubio,
right?
So he's going to come out. So DeSantis would appoint that slot. That's a big deal. The gentleman, I think it was last name, not the guy from Minnesota, but a guy from Florida, who's going to be pulled off for Department of Defense, or not Defense, or some national security advisor,
right?
Also from Florida. Another one that DeSantis would get to appoint. I mean, there's a lot to go on between now and if he takes the job as Secretary of Defense, then kind of all bets are off. And even Jimmy Petronis, who we all know from Department of Financial Services, who oversees that group of folks, is talking about running for the seat for Matt Gaetz.
Congress, isn't that
yeah,
right?
Yeah, because Matt quit and then walked away.
Right.
So between now and the next couple of months, you can see.
Wouldn't that be a dream?
Trust me, when they say go to Washington, I'm like, go to Washington.
Please go to Washington. Yeah. So, fun. I mean, I voted for DeSantis twice. I mean, he did great for small businesses until he got bought out, right? I mean,
right.
I love a person that's talking for the people until you take $100 million from the quote unquote in crisis insurance lobby. I don't know how they crapped out $100 million real quick if they're in crisis. We all knew that wasn't happening. I mean, Universal Insurance sold them $1 billion the year before in the middle of a quote unquote crisis. Matter of fact, they were quoting in their $33 to $35 million quarterly gains. They were in the same articles quoting about how they weren't affected by any crisis and they were the leader in property insurance. Yet there was this story going on through OIR, Office of Insurance Regulation, stating that, hey, we have a problem. Let's all raise our rates. And who's over top of OIR again?
OIR would. Oh, I'm trying to remember.
That
now.
rolls up to Jim Petronis.
Petronis
Right.
at the buck stops here with him. Yes,
it does. And many times, that I've even paid money, I'd hate to admit that, to sit next to Jimmy. Many times I've talked to Jimmy, our CFO. We would say, listen, man, I mean, we have different interests. I'm the president of the Restoration Association of Florida. We have lobbying ties as being the contractor lobbying group. That's really for us as contractors and as independent contractors and consumers alike, because our rights are only as good or as valid as the homeowners' rights, right? As us as independent contractors. And there's a difference. Just like when you go into the doctor's office, in network, out of network. I call our independent guys, right, out of network. The in-network guys are like, it's like paying full cost for medical, but then get Medicare type of treatment. And that's what you get in property insurance. You file a claim and they want to send out their own preferred provider. You're getting that Medicare type of treatment, but you're paying full premium. So
one thing you see too with that, and I just think it's really a sham, is that many insurers will waive your deductible if you use their contractor.
Wait, isn't that illegal?
I thought it was, and I still think it is, that there's a statute because you as a consumer have to pay your deductible or it's a crime. The contractor has to get that deductible from you or he is guilty of a crime. However, the insurer can just go, you know what? If you use our guy, which just shows how much money they have to make on this thing, we'll waive your deductible, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, especially on the hurricane side. Waive a hurricane deductible just to use their guy, which only shows you, again, how much money they're saving by giving you potentially substandard work. You do see a lot of these guys come out, the roofers, contractors come out, and people say to me, what do I do if they want to do that? I said, unfortunately, I think you need to hire a contractor, an engineer, someone to watch what they do, because you can't wait till it's done and then complain. You have to tell them as the job is going. I mean, the burden is so unfair on the consumer. They have to literally have someone oversee the work that they have to pay out of their pocket and report any problems to the insurer before the work is done, or they've waived their right to do so. All at the same time, they're like, I'm saving money. And there's an old saying, there's nothing more expensive than a cheap roof.
Right. Yeah, right. And that's a good point. And, I'm not used to being back on the live radio. So let me give out the phone number here. If you're listening, you have a question for myself or for the in-house counsel here. Now, here's your chance to give us a call and ask an attorney any question you have. We're talking about property insurance, but Hans has all types of all types of practices within his firm. So there's the only dumb question there is the one unasked, right? So give us a call here, 407-865-5481. Again, 407-865-5481. So just wanted to put that out there. So it is a live call-in show. So why we moved it to this format is if in case you do have a question, you have our attention right here, and we'll be happy to help you guys. Many folks over the years have had instances where they were dealing with their insurance company and they called in to get some advice. We're able to help them out and be a key asset for them. So feel free to give us a call, 407-865-5481 during our show. And it's every Monday night, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And so there's so much going on. And I want to talk a little bit about my background, a little bit about your background. Sure. And so the folks that are listening can kind of or understand where we come from. I come from more of the indoor quality side, more of like the mold testing, asbestos, lead, that kind of thing. When we're talking about buildings, I'm also a founder of a national training institute, which licenses mold assessors, mold remediators in the state of Florida, give them the knowledge and the experience that they need to become a good operator in this industry. And so, like I say, there are doctors for humans, and those are the folks you need to talk to about the effects of it. I'm a doctor of buildings. I can tell you how sick your building is and tell you the right ways to properly remediate and bring it back to a good living condition. So, but we need us all, when they call us and they say, hey, I need your opinion on these building damages, and whether it relates into mold, whether it relates to the asbestos indoor quality. We now are a licensed engineering firm as well, so we can opine on certain damages within structures. I also own a construction company here locally in the Orlando area called Disaster Management Recovery Group, and we specialize in insurance-related claims, and mostly because the average insured has never navigated an insurance claim before, start to finish. They say the average is once every 10 years or once in a lifetime is the average time that a consumer has to deal with a property insurance claim. And so when these hurricanes came, and you're dealing with a hurricane now, give us a call. I mean, Hans deals in property damages and hurricane claims all the time. And it's unfortunate that you have to get some of us, like, some people like us, professions like us, involved. But you look at the articles that are out in USA Today and showing that State Farm had an article out after Hurricane Ian, and they said a year after Hurricane Ian, they said over 50% of their claims were denied. Recently, Citizens Insurance, who has 1.4 million customers, I was going to say subscribers, might as well be, did the same. Over 50% of their claims they denied or paid under deductible. That's not fair. That's a lot of, that's if you do that in half, that's at least 700,000 claims, right? If you're looking at the amount of people. So that's super strong. And it's something that why I became an advocate and why I started the association, the nonprofit, so I can help other business owners, help to educate their insureds and to make sure that we're all on the same page. Right. And so with that, we are here to bring this to you. I'm an advocate in this industry. I'm helpful to bring indoor quality types of answers that relate to your indoor quality living. Like we've had air conditioning folks on here, home inspectors, drywall repair guys, and those, as we'll start this show, continues to go on, we'll have those guests here, and we're talking about how that relates to to the average every day, whether it be how often should I clean my air ducts, how often should I have my home tested for mold, how often should I replace the landscaping around the outside, and then how does that affect the inside of our homes too? Even if I have a roof damage, and then or I have a discrepancy with my insurance for a claim, those types of things where we bring a lot of value, and Hans brings the legal value to that. So, and Hans, you were recently with John Morgan, the Morgan & Morgan law firm, for quite some time, and then over the past year, which has been a fantastic year. Big change over. It looked as for me not such a great year, but I see it. It's not bad. It's just different, right? And some great success for you starting the Kennon Law Firm. So I'm excited for you. So yeah, give us an update about what happened over the last year.
Sure. I guess to start, my name's Hans Kennon. I'm a board certified civil trial lawyer by the Florida Bar. I've been a lawyer for almost 30 years now, which seems unbelievable that much time would elapse, and I would continue to find this area of practice.
I was 15.
Sorry. Well, there you go. Well, thanks. That gets you back for the comment earlier about a face for radio. So
it does.
We feel good
about that.
We give and get. So I've been a lawyer almost 30 years now. I primarily represented policyholders regarding their disputes with their own insurance company. That's called first-party insurance. So if you have a claim that's been denied or underpaid by your insurer under any type of policy, we're happy to talk to you about that and see if we can help you with that. There's been a lot of changes the last few years. Things have become much more difficult. The governor has put a lot more burden on the insured to handle some of the expenses and costs of bringing a claim against their own insurer, and we try to help you with those also. So again, if you have any questions about a denied or underpaid claim, we're happy to help you. Also, because of a lot of interest, I have a full-time personal injury lawyer who's with me, a guy I went to law school with, which makes him of similar vintage as I. He's been doing the personal injury work all that time. So I have about 10 staff, so we have lots of folks. And so happy to help you with your insurance claim, your personal injury claim. And really, we really enjoy it. I mean, it's interesting. Most of the folks have been with me for 10 years or more on my staff, and we all kind of picked up and moved to Maitland and took our clients and took our cases and decided we want to control the pie a little more than we were before. Again, it's been a good year. It's a lot. Whenever you start up a new business, it's a lot to get it going, no matter how long you've been doing it. But that's all been going well. And again, and I always give out my cell phone. Richie knows, 407-782-0258, 407-782-0258. Actually, last week I had a guy call who listened to us on the radio show a couple of years ago. My phone rings out of the blue. He's like, Hans, it's Anthony. And I'm like, hi, Anthony. He goes, from the radio show. I'm like, oh my God, it's been years. So he literally called me, had my number in his phone. I tell everybody, take my name.
Yeah, I love it. You say, get out your phone, get add a new contact and say lawyer and put your, I'm like, that's so smart, because it's like you literally, when you do that, how many people have a lawyer that they can call or text right there and have like an excellent answer within minutes.
So I do that. And so but he was one of the guys who did that. He actually took my name down, put the word lawyer, put my cell phone number in, and the phone rang, and I was able to help him navigate. He was putting a new roof on his house. So I was trying to help him through the process of who to use and what things he should look for in the contract. And I was just concerned about some of the language. So I was able to help somebody there. We had a guy from Georgia call. We've had different people call, even from out of state, looking for answers to questions. So again, I'm here. I'm happy to help. And whatever you guys need out there in the audience, just let me know.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And not only are we here on the radio every Monday night, 7 to 8, we're also producing this. We're going to post this on our YouTube page, post-produced. Then we're going to post it all over our social media as well. And the audio goes to Spotify, goes to iTunes, goes everywhere streaming can go after we produce the show. So a few days after, we'll have the Monday show on Spotify. And if you go on there now, you'll see all of our prior shows, all the way dating back years on all of our shows. And we label them with who our speakers are and what the topic's about. So you can search a topic, listen to us there on Spotify, or go to our YouTube page. And so we've recently updated everything, but you can go to our Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell YouTube page, subscribe there. And there's a contractortalkpodcast.com that'll give you all of the links to everywhere we're at. So it's exciting again to be here on live radio, because we can offer a universe of audience, right? I mean, so we can be here live with our local Orlando listeners, and then project that everywhere else that you can possibly listen and stream.
Yeah, and keep an eye out, because like I said, when this was coming up today, Angela was good enough to get us a promo. So I did put that out on Instagram and Facebook and everything else, and we'll try to put it up every Monday for a while to keep everybody reminded that we're doing this from 7 to 8.
That's right. That's right. And new guests coming in again. This show is for the consumer, so we can help you out what to expect, what kind of, especially if you're new to Florida. We have such a different climate here. There are different ways to maintain your home, and we talked to you about that before hurricane season comes up. How to document your assets as much as possible. And like you said many times, you've had weird claims happen where you wouldn't think of happen. There was a guy's like what we called it the she shed, their additional building in the back where an airplane ran into, and you're like, and he had stuff in there. You're like, oh, you would definitely think that's covered. Right. You hear, you see, State Farm guy, the Jake is like, oh yeah, you're covered. Right. And then to find out that he was covered, but under covered.
Yeah. Way underinsured. He had an RV and a whole sets of tools, all sorts of things, and an airplane like crashed
out of the sky,
crashed into his garage. So that was one of the somewhat unique. Right. Of course, the odds of that happening again are very low.
Right. They are, but they do exist, right? And so, and when you said that, I was like, man, do I have a she shed? Am I under? Do I not have enough policy coverage for it? Right. If I had something different. You also said don't have a Picasso that's not in your house that you don't have enough content coverage for. Because when you think about it too, you're like, okay, my house burns down. I only have $40,000 worth of content coverage. Is that enough? Talking about from your paintings on your wall to your furnishings to your silverware and everything in between. Is that enough coverage?
Well, I was telling too, when whatever happens as hurricane season's upon us, before the season starts, like around May, one thing people don't really think about is their closet for men or women. I mean, you think about how many shoes you may have or suits for women, clothes. And if you don't have a photo of your closet, the odds of you putting together a reasonable property inventory is really zero. You're going to go, because you're going to say, you have this wall of clothes. You got a photo, you can show the insurance company and go, here's the wall of clothes. At least it's something, because otherwise you're going to say, I don't know, what I have, 10, 5, 4, 12 pair? I mean, you have no idea. Take photos of all the interior. I walk around my house with the video camera running on my phone and just walk the whole house in May. Walk the whole outside in May. Make sure you take photos of things that are of greater value. We can talk about that. Don't collect anything, because collections are limited. So if you have a thimble collection or a NASCAR play collection, whatever you have, they're actually limited because they're a collection of things. So if you have a collection of things, you have to get actually a special rider to cover the collection. Jewelry is limited, always limited. Guns are limited. Silverware is limited. Artwork is limited. To as little as $500 or $1,000. Even just the things you might buy at the Mount Dora Art Festival, you get one piece a year. Over time, it ends up being a lot more than what those limits are. So what you find is that your collections and your personal
I'm going to use that
property.
to tell the wife. I said, we can't continue to get all this accumulation because then it becomes a collection and we can't insure it.
Exactly. And then you have to go get you have to go get a special rider. I mean, really, the limitations on the policy, whenever I go to mediation with citizens, I do about 20 of those a week. One of the adjusters, who's a good guy, he always tells my client how much coverage there is. He'll go, man, you have a policy with $500,000 in coverage. And I'm like, yeah, but she can't get to it. She has it, but can't get to it. It's like the photo of the hand trying to reach for the other hand. Like you just can't touch it. So he'll always say though, and they have $500,000 in coverage. And I'm like, well, how much are you going to pay today? Well, I'm not going to pay anything today. So she has $500,000, but you're not going to pay her any of that.
Right.
So, and then on top of it, there's the collection issues. There's the all the issues with the roof, or if you don't have a hole in your roof, they don't have to pay for the interior. I mean, it just goes on and on with the reasons why you can't get to it, which is why we always talk about, you can look at, say, your agent, how much coverage they'll have, and he may say $500,000. Yeah, how much of that can I actually get to? And he goes, well, if your house burns to the ground, about $350 of $500, and then everything else has to fall into place. So we always want to talk about, and we'll talk about more in depth as the weeks go on, but always look at what isn't covered or what is excluded or what is limited more than the big number at the top of the page. Right.
And those are some good key words there, because before you're just looking at, okay, what's excluded, right? And then you think, okay, everything else is included, right? Mm-hmm. And unless otherwise excluded, right, then,
otherwise limited. And again, there's limits.
Those are new words now that insurance companies are putting in there. Now they're limiting coverage to a certain amount.
Right. Because they'll say, oh, you're covered. It's just limited.
Right. And you like these new things that are sneaking into these policies, like 1% matching. It's like, okay, we'll cover up to 1% of the matching material, which the Florida state statute, though, says that you have to repair what's like, kind, color, material, and through continuity. I can't say that word, but continuous services, like, say, flooring and cabinets. They say the lower cabinets were damaged. Well, you can't replace the lowers and match exactly to the uppers. So you then replace the uppers and the lowers as one complete set.
Right.
So what they're saying now is if water gets in under your lower cabinets, now they're only going to pay 1% of the uppers to match.
But you're covered.
But you're covered.
Right.
So that's how they're getting around it. But the problem is they're not giving you any consideration in exchange for it. And I think that's where they're getting in trouble with. But how does OIR just allow that to happen and put in their policies when they know that that's, Florida statute survives over policy? I don't get it.
Well, I mean, the issue here is someone has to complain, right? I mean, you do the work you do. I'm a lawyer on behalf of policyholders. If nobody comes to me and says, are they allowed to do this? Then they just accept it. We always talk about the numbers game.
Crazy.
But certainly insurers, if they know anything, they know about actuarial. They know about how to count money. They know if you got 10 people with a denied claim, someone's going to get mad about that. But about half will go, well, it got denied. The remaining half is going to go, I'm calling the insurance company. Then of that remaining half, they send out an engineer or another adjuster or a supervisor to go check. Then they say, I'm sorry, we're still not going to be able to do that for you. And then you got 1 or 2 people left who might call me, and I go, where's the other 8 people? Because I know they got treated the exact same way and got taken advantage of in the exact same way. But if nobody calls, if nobody complains, it's like the whole preamble to the show, right? Yeah. If nobody complains, then nothing gets fixed.
That's right.
And that's what we try to do here.
And when the Restoration Association of Florida, sued Office of Insurance Regulation for the policy allowment that they I call it American Disintegrity. I'll screw it. I'll still call it American Disintegrity. They just rolls off the tongue, where they actually got OIR to allow them to put in their policies that they would have these binding arbitration clauses.
Oh, yes.
And they were not offering anything. So they were restricting somebody's right to justice, right? Without any acknowledgement, without anything at all, or discount of such. And what I've learned from that lawsuit, we lost because Bob Richie, the owner of American Disintegrity, gave DeSantis a bunch of money. So then the next special session that we had, one of the laws that were changed on there was allowing the insurance policies to have this binding arbitration in there. However, it must be with a discount, given a discount and an acknowledgement.
How much is that discount?
It must be... It could be anything. It just must be cheaper. It doesn't specify. Isn't that great? It just must be cheaper, the discount. So how much, I don't know. So, all right. So this and more. Here's our first break here with Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. We'll be right back, and we'll pick up right where we left off.
You are now listening to Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell.
All right, welcome back to the show. Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. And here we are at our first night here on this dial. Not new to our show. We're all over Spotify. If you like what you heard today, you want to hear other shows, you go to Spotify. That's the easiest one. And you can search Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell there, or you can go to our website, contractortalkpodcast.com, or find us on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere else that you can stream, and social media. So right before the break, we're just talking about some of the let's even talk about this, right? I mean, how do we put it like this? Just some of the shortcomings that we'll see consumers have with their property insurance claim. And you have an article here, and the prelude to that was talking about how much of a market share that Citizens Insurance has in the state of Florida. Roughly 1.4 million policies out of about 6.5 million policies that exist in the state of Florida. That's just on single family residences. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't count condos and apartments and all this other stuff, all this other housing. There's 22.5 million, almost 23 million people here in Florida. To your point, I think the second or third largest state in the country, California being about 44 million. And with us here, like I said, being about 22.5, 23 million. I think as New York continues to get depleted and our Florida census getting bigger.
It's funny. I'm from New Jersey, and I'm tired of people from up north coming down.
Why'd you park the car? Is that why you're saying?
That's Boston.
Dang, it's a lager? I don't know. Anyways.
Water.
It's
water. Got a glass of water.
You thirsty? You want some water? You want some water? Okay. All day I can do this. Anyway, so what... And they recently were in an article, like I mentioned, State Farm was also called out for denying 50% of their Hurricane Ian claims. Hurricane Ian, remind you, is a Category 5 storm.
2022. Right.
And they're saying it, here it is a year later, they were saying, this was in 2023, obviously, right? And then now we have 2 years later, and still more claims coming in and vastly more denials. And you would think it would be less denials after all of this stuff in the legislature where they knew that these adjusters were changing bids and underpaying homeowners. And then Citizens makes the headlines after Heritage makes a headline for getting the biggest, the biggest fine they've got in the state of Florida. It's $1 million fine for a condo that they underpaid.
Which is nothing. I mean, reality. I mean, $1 million to the guys at Heritage.
Right. To how many they've shorted and how much money they've saved by not paying homeowners. See, the way they're doing it now is saying, hey, homeowner, thank you for filing the claim. We recognize that you have a claim. We recognize you have damage. And you have a 2% deductible and about an $8,000 bottom. And I think you got about $7,000 worth of damage. So there you go. We paid your claim. I mean, we're not paying your claim because your damage is earned at the deductible. Have a great day.
But you're recovered.
Right. You've recovered. You should be made whole now.
Look, man, I mean, a couple of things they've done over time is when they used to just deny claims straight up. Citizens still does because they don't care. But most insurers...
because they're immune from bad faith.
You're correct. There's no bad faith exposure for Citizens. One thing you find with most insurers these days, they used to deny everything. Now they do that tactic because psychologically, if they pay you under deductible, quote unquote, pay you under deductible, don't give you any actual money, but make it look like they were going to, people go, well, they tried. Or they pay you just over deductible, right? Like $1,000 or $500 over. People go, well, it's pretty good because people inherently want to believe, and we all do to some extent.
For sure.
The insurer is a very important role in people's lives. Health insurance, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, things you really need. And
you are in good hands.
And you believe it's going to go well. Like you want, I think fundamentally that you really want it to go well and think they have your best interest in heart.
Good neighbor.
So when they try to give you money or almost give you money, people, I think, cut them a lot of slack. And that's exactly what they're looking for. They want you to go, well, they tried. Well, they really didn't try hard enough. They tried enough to try to psychologically get you to not come find a guy like me and go after them for the money they actually deserve.
Right.
I mean, and that's really what I see. Most people come to see me and they've waited a long time. Another thing the legislature did is they changed the time for you to make a claim. It used to be 3 years to make a claim, and then it was 2 years to make a claim. Now it's 1 year to make a claim. I've had people call me at the year mark years ago, but even though they had more time to file, I'll go, where you been? Because nothing got done. And all of them to a fault say, I just thought they would come in and do the right thing. I mean, no one comes in with any other vitriol, or they're just like, I just thought it would kind of come together.
Oh, yeah.
And now with the 1 year limit on making a new claim, I had someone come in to me the other day, 366 days.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, talk about day late and a dollar short. I mean, literally one day what precluded, and that actually is the bar. Now, what's funny is the thing called a statute of limitations is how long you have to actually file a suit. It's 5 years from date of the storm. You're like,
so you
5
have
years.
to file the claim, though, within the first year.
Correct. So what's funny is people say, well, I got 5 years to file suit. Not if you didn't make the claim, like you said, within the first 12 months. So 12 months is really the statute of limitations now. It's really not 5 years, because after 12 months, you are barred. And if you have a supplemental claim, if you find more stuff wrong, you have 6 more months to find that out, or you're barred forever from that.
It used to be 3 years and 5 years to supplement.
Right.
Believe it or not, I mean, years go by fast. Don't we all know about it? This year went by really fast. Imagine, though, if that was the only time you had to first get the claim submitted, approved, find the right vendors to come out and all that. And what happened when you finally do get the vendor to come out? They take half your roof off and they find additional damages. You're past the time now to supplement. And that's the only course that you have is while the claim is still viable within the first 18 months. First, you have to file the claim and then be within that time. Nobody's getting their roof replaced in 18 months if the carrier stalls, especially if they're like Citizens at first, underpays you and slows down and tells you at the door that they're going to cover all your damages. And then the desk adjuster then tells you, hey, by the way, you're under deductible. It's like, what happened?
Oh, I can't tell you how many times people tell me, they go, I met with the adjuster. Seemed like, this is how it goes. I met with the adjuster. Seemed like a nice guy. Wasn't there that long, probably there maybe 10, 15 minutes or so, maybe 20. And he said that it looked like there was storm damage and they were going to cover it. And then he left. That is the story over and over and over. And they go, and then I got a letter said they're denying the claim.
Right. And I'm
like,
under deductible. Every time.
Deductible, whatever it may be. And it's so funny how you see that game that they played out over and over and over, and everyone just says, that guy was so nice.
Every time.
Happens all the time. But one thing, you remember a couple of years ago, one of the reasons they made all these sweeping changes to the fee statute, and the fee statute used to be that if I got money from the insurer on your behalf, the insurer had to pay me for my time and my costs in getting you that money. One of the changes they made was now you, the homeowner, has to pay me out of the proceeds. So your repairs cost X dollars. I used to say, look, you get all of X. It's all yours. I'll get my money and my cost from the insurance company. Now I say, look, I know you need X to fix your house, but I got to take part X because I can't do this for free. And people go, well, how do I fix my house? And I go, well, you can call the governor and ask him what he thinks, because apparently he thinks you and State Farm and Citizens have the same economic horsepower. You can just write a check and cover that. I said, but if you can't, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I'm taking you from 0 to maybe 70% of what you need. I said, but that's the best I can do for you because they changed the statute. Yeah. But again, the whole selling point was there's so many lawsuits in the state of Florida, right? There's so many, there's 89% or whatever crazy statistic they had from a couple of years ago that wasn't sound. But there's an article in in the Tampa Bay Times, and it says, Floridians had the worst chance in the nation of receiving a paycheck when filing a homeowner's claim in 2022. So what we said is, well, there's a reason why we have more lawsuits, maybe, than everybody else, even though the data was flawed. Maybe it is true. If it is in fact true, then that's why we have more lawsuits than anybody else. For that very reason. The same thing, I noticed that for 50, Citizens did take over the top slot, though, this year. They actually went over beyond State Farm and Allstate. 50.4 of the 17,000 claims were denied for a variety of reasons or didn't meet the policyholder deductible. State Farm and Allstate were about 46%. So And what's interesting too is we talk
Citizens
about
take the lead.
We talk about crisis, right? That's always, I think it's always kind of interesting. We talk about the insurance crisis. Citizens was profitable last year, had net income of $746 million, $750 million.
And how much is their surplus?
Oh, I didn't even know what that was.
So I was saying before, I told somebody, so they have $7 billion
I was going to say
in surplus. And then I asked like Google or whatever the other day, and it was actually up to like $8 billion. Let me see.
I think it's like $8 billion. So they made.
What is Citizens of Florida insurance surplus today?
Yeah, $750 million in profit because they denied 50% of everybody's claim. Actually, they almost won an award for Hurricane Debbie, which came through earlier this year. They're at 77% of claims closed without payment. So,
woo, wow,
77. That's a big number.
That is a huge number. And so, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, and with all of the different laws that they put in the 2022 special sessions that were the death nail for attorney's fees. And like you said, you used to be able to tell somebody that, hey, if you have a discrepancy against your insurance company and they owe you $10,000 for your roof, I'm going to get you $10,000 for your roof.
Right.
And that's what it's been since the Supreme Court case law in 1893. We'll go all the way back to horse and buggy days, where they put this. This is the lay of the land. It's almost our Constitution.
Right.
David versus Goliath was built around this lawsuit, where it says that you have a dispute against your billion-dollar insurance carrier, that if they owe you that indemnity, you sue them, you get that indemnity. Attorney's fees and costs are paid separately.
Right.
And here we are, fast forward to 2022. They drop $100 million into DeSantis' pocket to run for president, and all of a sudden he calls for a special session and then single-handedly takes a pen and strokes out all of those 100-plus year case law. Well, it's ridiculous.
We talked about those bills. Typically, bills are written by, in theory at least, by the legislature, by the House and the Senate. Someone's down there crafting it, whatever they may do. And it was my understanding through very good sources, including yourself.
I'll say it. I don't care. I'll say it.
Out of the governor's office.
I was sitting next to Senator Boyd, who filed it Thursday before Friday came out with my lobbyist, and I said, Senator Boyd, what do you think this bill is going to that's coming out? That's going to be what's going to be in there? I'm worried about AOBs. I'm worried about direction pay. I'm worried about all this stuff for consumers as well, and the rights that we'll have remaining after this. He looked at me and says, I don't know. I'm going to know about it tomorrow. And that was the Thursday before Monday, in which that bill was going to be heard in his committee.
Right.
So he didn't even see the bill until Friday night at 7:00, to where the rest of us saw it as well. And it was BS. It was 100+ pages of stuff that the quote unquote the sponsoring senator supposedly wrote.
Didn't it get voted on? Did it get voted on Tuesday or Monday? I forget what day. It got voted on almost immediately.
Yeah, I think it was either Monday or Tuesday, but it was the first session or first committee of the session. So it must have been Tuesday then.
Yeah.
And it was in banking and insurance. He brought it up. It was voted on Wednesday. It was done. It was out of his committee. Voted and done. And so it has to go through now because it was a special session. And that was because we had we had 3 or 4 special sessions, and then we had the beginning of the 2023 session, which was well, no, I think that was in March. No, 2023. No, that must have been 2022.
December 16th of 2022
was the special session. So then we had so it went. Then we had regular session in January.
Right.
It went through so fast that the governor signed it on March 24th, 2023, which is incredibly fast for a bill to go through the Senate, the House, and then present it over to the governor for signature, in which at that moment it became law of the land. So it was March 24th. That was amazingly fast. And again, it was on the agenda after we had 3 special sessions that changed the landscape for property insurance along the way. They slowly cut away rights all the way up to that point. And the reason why it didn't get worse is because we actually had a Speaker of the House with a backbone, and that's why we had a special session before December, because all of the seats changed, and then we had a much weaker Speaker of the House come in and a much weaker Senate President, who basically said on the record, we're going to do whatever the governor wants us to do.
Oh yeah, and at that point too,
which is not for the people.
Yeah, and they were all eyeing whatever job they wanted in federal government, level. They want to be ambassador to whatever, those are the jobs I think that they were gunning for. If DeSantis had made it through the primaries, perhaps even got elected president, he had a lot of momentum at the beginning. Obviously, it faded quickly. But I think that was their idea was if we do exactly what he says, we'll hitch our wagon to his star, and all of a sudden we'll be going to state dinners all the time.
Right. We saw that worked out.
Yeah.
But some of the things he did get done is he was able to get a bill signed, which was just funny enough. Is what was it, 2018, where Pasadomo, who was on the record voting for, and some of the others.
The one that there was a law that got passed. The gentleman became the Speaker of the House, and the lady who became the Senate President voted for a bill that would not allow a sitting governor to run for a political office without resigning that position. They passed that. I think it was in 16 or 18 that got passed.
2018, yeah.
2018. And then what it would have been like 4 years later, they actually went in, undid the statute, and the Senate, the House Speaker of the House was heard to say, "Well, it's such an honor to have him run for president. We thought we should undo the statute." I'm like, why can't he just quit? Why can't he just do what the statute says?
Just step down if you have such a strong, aspiration to run for president, if you really think you're going to win. And so he got that bill done a week before he announced, or a day or two before he signed the bill.
Literally, within a day, I think.
The ink was drying, and he's like, "Hey, by the way, I'm running for president," right afterwards. And also what he did is he got it to where he doesn't have to, himself or his cabinet does not have to disclose any of the cost.
Yes.
So while he was parading around Iowa, which oddly enough has 99 counties, and we have 67.
67, yes.
Anyways, whatever. I won't even go into that. It's Iowa. It's just a weird cornfield play. I don't get it. Anyways, while he was going around there, we were paying for all that.
Yep.
But now he didn't have to disclose it anywhere to where we actually have knowledge of it. And then he got into an accident in Georgia or something.
Tennessee. I think Georgia or Tennessee. I was going to bring the accident up too. And that was the first time, because he had not disclosed that everyone around him were actually Florida Secret Service or Florida State Troopers for the protection of the governor. That was the first time we actually really saw that it was a whole bunch of guys from Florida, all out of state, all on the state's dime, that he didn't pay for. And always there were discussions about his penchant for private plane travel, which actually eclipsed some of his advertising budgets because he spent so much on private planes. I mean, really, it was a good time for him. I'm just going to say, I think that was quite the salad days, I think, as they would call them. Now he's just back being governor.
Right.
So yeah, if he wouldn't moved off to the Secretary of Defense, or I don't know, Trump, I think today reaffirmed his desire for is it Hegareth, the guy who's actually set to be Secretary of Defense right now.
Yeah, I know there's a Peter somebody or that's supposed to be. I didn't catch that up, but apparently if he drops out, then DeSantis looks like he'll be the shoe-in.
Yeah.
So that is and that's what we're all holding our breath for when we're all looking at what do you think is going to happen in this session coming up. I've heard from Danny Perez, who's going to be the Speaker of the House. He's stepping in. So there's still question marks around who the governor is going to be at that point. It's a big, fork in the road if he stays on rather than if Janet Nunez comes in. There's two different strategies.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, DeSantis comes to the table all the time from a very strong position of power, position of influence, whether it be here or in Washington. Obviously, being even potentially selected to be Secretary of Defense is a big deal. I mean, that's a big job.
Yeah. And he's got nowhere else to go. He came from Congress, in Florida, right? And he's been I think he was a senator or a representative or something.
Right. But again, keep in mind, when DeSantis goes to the floor and tells people, look, either do this or I'm going to run someone against you, that comes with gravitas, right? That comes with some weight. I don't know if the lieutenant governor comes down and says, you do this, or I'm going to find, I don't know if she gets the same credibility.
Well, let's say this, right? When after COVID and after he got reelected, he was so powerful that for those 2 years he could do whatever he wanted, and he did.
Right.
He literally did. But I think though people got sick of it. I mean, even the Gellers of the world, it says like, why are we legislating? I love that guy, right? I mean, he stood up, he told us, he's like says everything that I was thinking in the audience. It's like, why are we legislating? He's like, this is BS, and it's just like, and he's right. Everybody was just just going along along with it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sitting with my lobbyist with 14 very high positioned Republicans, and we all want the same thing. Literally, they're all like counting on their phones how many votes they have. They're like, man, in the years past, we would know that all the Democrats stick together on their votes, and then all we need to beat out the rest of the Republicans to have the numbers. He goes, this year, it's weird. We got way more Republicans, but the Democrats aren't sticking together, so that doesn't help. So then there's too many, just following the leader newbies that come in that are just following the pack, which throws off their numbers. So all of these guys were hot, and we're all trying to, to keep the attorney's fees and all this stuff, but because we're outnumbered, they have to stay on their side. They're like, listen, if we don't have a massive, big overturn on here, then we put the middle finger up, then we can do that and we'll gladly do it.
Right.
So let me tell you about the difference. And then they couldn't do it then in the last 2 years. You're right. The governor's going around saying, hey, if you don't vote, if you don't do what I want you to do, I'm going to run somebody against you in the primaries. You're going to lose. You're done. I have all this money sitting in this pot. And you're done. Right. So he got everybody to do that. Well, he tried to call a special session, by the way, just the last month and 2 months ago, and the legislator shut him down and said no. He wanted to do the condo stuff. And so you'll see the difference of power. He doesn't have any power anymore as much as he had before. Obviously, he's powerful, especially if he stays the next 2 years. But he's run out of power, and he did that to himself. He took too much on there and showed that he can be bought out, he can be paid for, and that it doesn't matter that the quote unquote little people that he's stepping on doesn't matter as he goes up to Washington D.C. And that's BS.
And with the 2 years left, he truly has become a lame duck governor in the classic sense. Like then the chance to hook your wagon to his star was running for president.
Right.
And when that fizzled out, like you said, there's no place for him to go. Other than I thought he might give himself the Senate seat with Rubio, or give himself the job. I'm sure he's allowed to do that through some executive order or something like that. No. I will say, and I feel bad saying it, he's got a lot of evil genius going on. I mean, a lot of stuff they did was so bad for the consumer, couched in a way that he made it sound like it was good for people. I mean, things like we talk about all these bills that went through and all these changes. What the insurers really want is they want an unsophisticated insured. They want an insured who doesn't know what to do, doesn't know what to ask for, doesn't know the questions to ask, doesn't want a guy like me helping, a guy like you helping. They want them unsophisticated, which is why they got rid of assignment of benefits, got rid of a lot of different things because it gave the insured a sophisticated partner to help in restoring their home. And
think about the attorney's fees statute too. I mean, that made it to where they had to answer quickly, or else it would keep propounding attorney's fees and it would be much more expensive.
Right.
But to your point, that's why they took away assignment of benefits and they chiseled away first in property.
Yep.
And they say, okay, this is what we're getting paid for by the property insurance people to remove that. So the first special session, let's get away, let's do away with prevailing party attorney's fees for AOB. And then it was, let's do away with AOB altogether, and then they're like, you know what? We like that so much that we're on a roll. We just gave them $100 million. I'll tell you what, I'll give you a promise of another $200 million if you actually make it to the next step through the primary. So he was primed up. He's like, all right, cool. So let's just take away it all. And now it affects not only property. Now there's no prevailing party attorneys for your property or for auto or for life insurance. And there's one other type of insurance. But
whatever it is, whether it's disability, whether it's health, whether it's auto, like I said, we talk about life.
If they don't pay somebody's death benefit, you have to hire your own lawyer to get the money and you have to spend it out of your own pocket.
Yep.
I mean, what?
I know. One thing too, we talk about for all the bills that were passed, that all limited insured rights, limited coverage, took away their ability to easily use someone like myself or yourself. Not one word in any of those bills had any premium reduction. Not a dollar. No one line of those bills, hundreds of pages. Not one line said, and if you do this, you have to lower premiums.
And why did the governor call special sessions again? To do what?
To make insurance more affordable.
Right. But there was no, if this, then premiums will be lower in the actual statute.
Right. Oh, no, not a word. So they got everything they were looking for with no corresponding obligation to the insured to actually make things better for them.
That's wild. That's wild. And so our hope is that we do become or have a legislature that has a backbone, right? I mean, we look like we will now with the incoming House Speaker, Speaker of the House, Danny Perez coming in. And we hope to see that, hey, we're, because whenever I got into this, as you know, I was good friends with Senator Farmer, which is the head of the Democratic, the minorities. I was knocking on doors for him because I liked a lot of the things he supported. And now he's a judge in Broward County, but I'm a Republican, and I feel very heavy again, on what Republicans are supposed to be, which was for deregulation and for small business and
small government, all those things. And all we see is expansion.
Right. And now all we see is the insurance companies feeding from the CFO. Like, he raised $3.5 million. Where did that come from? Well, 20,000 came from my dump ass.
State Farm, didn't State Farm? I think State Farm paid most of that money.
Yeah, most of it. Well, it was all insurance companies. It was all insurance lobbying.
The biggest
20,000 for me.
Right.
So, but that didn't mean that got me my dinner with him when we sat there, and he lied to me and told me how he wasn't going to bring the hammer like they were going to. But anyway, but of course, when you're supported by insurance, what do you think is going to happen? But you're the head. You're a fox guarding the hen house, really. But then what do you think's going to happen? That's why he didn't go after any of the insurance companies, and he's just going after contractors and calling public adjusters, who he oversees the Department of Financial Services, which oversees public adjusters, calling them all locusts.
Right.
And so this is a bad thing that we have to deal with. So luckily, he's getting out of here, and we'll have a much cleaner Florida.
We have a lot to talk about next week, though. I can feel that already.
Yeah, we do. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. Every Monday night now, 7 p.m. here on this fine new network, 94.9 FM and 950 AM, The Answer. So, and we're on every streaming site that you can possibly be on, and on our website, contractortalkpodcast.com. Hans, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure as always.
Awesome. All right. We'll talk to you guys next week. Again, thank you guys for joining us tonight on Contractor Talk with Richie Kidwell. See you.